So questions on the translation exercises for chapter 38 here. Let's do those. Which ones you want to go through? 2? Number 2? All right. Let me read this out loud for you. Va anus me hamilchama lifnei re'otham othi. Okay, so here's one of our hollow verbs here, va anus. And how do we translate this? Yeah, we want to identify the root letters. Do you see the va in front here? That might be what? Yeah, this is a vav of the Vayiktol or WCI variety. And anytime you have one of those vavs, the next letter is always one of the nutty prefixes. Here it's an aleph. So that is which person, gender, number? That's right, 1CS. So whatever this means right here, it's and I blanked. And you're like, yeah, I think that's what I just did. I blanked. And so what's nous? To escape, to flee. I remember somebody wants to put a noose around my neck. I am going to try to escape or flee. Okay? So there you go. Is this a perfect, or excuse me, a kal, nifal, piel, pual, hifil, hofal, hitpile? That is the good old kal. Okay, so I've got a nun samic for my roots. You know from your vocab list that nous is a middle vav verb. And what vowel class is a shurik here? It is it's a U class vowel, right? And that is going to be common with these middle vav verbs in the kal, imperfect and WCIs and justives. Okay. Now, if you're not sure that you've parsed this correctly as a kal WCI 1CS, then go to your weak verb paradigm and find a kal WCI form and look and see, does my vowel pointing match here? All right. So let's do that. Let's go back to the hollow verb. And nous is a middle vav verb, and it's active to escape, flee. So it's going to follow the kum pattern, right? Mate and bosh are stative verbs, so you would use those if you've got a stative verb that is hollow. And then sam is a middle yod formation. So if you had a verb that had a middle yod, a Keurig yod for its lexical form, then you'd want to compare it with this one. We're going to compare it with kum. And what did we say? We said WCI, first common singular, right? The imperfect first common singular is akum. Akum. And that looks a lot like anus, doesn't it? Anus, akum. I just have a kof and mem here. I have a nun and a samic in my form in the exercise. And then, of course, the WCI form is going to have the vav pathak before it, and it would try to put a doubling dot in the first consonant. He's only giving you the 3MS form, but realize that any of these nutty prefixes from the imperfect can go here where that yod is. And if I have an aleph there, the aleph is going to reject that dagesh forte and cause the pathak, the short A, to compensatorily lengthen. So I've pretty much got all the identifying marks, but I have to kind of put them together here in this weak verb paradigm chart. But this is and I fled or and I escaped. Now, what is me hamilchama? Yeah, from the battle. Good. And then lifnei means before. Now this can be spatial or temporal. Before a time or literally before a person or a thing. I escaped from the battle before Re'otham. Now here I have a, this is not a hollow verb. This one's going to be a little bit tricky for us because it's a weak verb, and it's a weak verb from right about the end of our semester back in maybe Hebrew. Re'otham. What do you think the verb is here? What's the lexical form? Yeah, this is from Ra'ah, which is Resh, Kametz, Aleph, Kametz, Hey. So what kind of a weak verb is this? What weakness is this with a Kametz Hey ending? What do we call those weak verbs? 3 Hey. Okay, so this is a 3 Hey verb. Now look at what I've got. I've got the Resh, and I've got the Aleph. Okay, I've got roots 1 and 2. What happens in 3 Hey verbs a lot? Well, I don't have a third root letter visible, right? That's one of the things that makes this difficult and weird for us is, the backside of my 3 Hey verbs is always going to be different than what the strong verb does with its third root letter. Now, what do I have here? I've got Resh and Aleph, and then I have Ot right here, okay? Now, when you see an Ot, there's 2 things that could possibly be. It could be a feminine plural, noun or adjective ending, right? That's fairly common. Or there's one other thing that Ot always does with 3 Hey verbs. So anyhow, the Ot could be doing one other thing in 3 Hey verbs. What does the Ot also do? I'm sorry, what's that? Well, that's not so much what I'm thinking. You could have like a Holam Vav as a helping vowel, to get to a consonantal perfect ending. But I'm thinking specifically in terms of 3 Hey verbs. We see Ot a lot in which form of a 3 Hey verb? The infinitive construct. Yes. Okay. So let's review that weak verb paradigm for 3 Hey verbs real quickly. We want to just go back to this page here, 3 Hey paradigms, and we want to look at the infinitive construct of our 3 Hey verbs. And did you see here? It's got after root 2, Ot in every infinitive construct. You see that? Every single one. Okay, root 1, root 2, and then Ot for the end. So look here. If I have a vocal shuvah under root 1 and then Ot, it's a Kal. The Nifal will have Higa and then Lot. The PL and Pual will have the A or the U and the doubling in root 2. Hithpael has the Hith prefix, and the Hifil and Hofal have the Hey prefixes. So there's only 3 infinitives that have no prefixing: the Kal, the PL, and the Pual. And so if we go back to our exercise, we have Re'otham, no prefix before it, but with a vocal shva under it. That's got to be what? It's got to be Kal. So this is a Kal infinitive construct of Ra'ah. And then there's something attached to the end of the infinitive construct Ra'ot. That's an Am ending. Am is a pronoun. And do we often see pronoun suffixes attached to infinitive construct? Yeah, we do, right? Very, very frequently. What's the Am ending? It's plus 3MP. All right. So what does ra'a mean in the cow? To see. To see. So I fled from the battle before the act of seeing of them. That is to say, before their seeing Othi, that's my direct object, before their seeing me. Okay? Now, because the time frame of this verb with this vayiktol or WCI at the beginning is past, then even though the infinitive by itself does not mark time, I can give it a tense value because of the context that the beginning verb gave me. That's past. So I'm going to make this past in my translation. I fled, or I escaped from the battle before they saw direct object me. Okay? Is that clear? Let me rephrase that. Is that clearer? All right. What else? Okay, let's look at number 7 here. And again, I'll read the text for us here slowly. You follow along here. Yekon melech tzadik al ha-kiseh v'yashiv tzedakah. Okay, so here I have yekon. Yekon. If I assume for a moment that this yod is a prefix yod, how many consonants do I have in the verbal core here? Just 2. Kaf and nun. And if that is the case, this could be a hollow verb. What would be the middle vowel for the lexical form? Shurik. This could be kun, right? All right. Now, that yod prefix then would be the 3ms prefix of which conjugation pattern? Yeah, so this could be imperfect. And guess what? There's one other conjugation pattern that almost always looks exactly like the imperfect, and that would be the adjussive. Remember, the imperative will chop off the prefix, but the adjussive and the imperfects are usually the same. There's only a certain weak verbs where they differ from each other. Okay? So this could be an imperfect or adjussive 3ms. Now let's figure out which stem it is. I have a Keurig under the nutty prefix. We see that in only 2 places. Really, that's the Kal and the Nifal have an I-class vowel under the nutty prefix. But only one of them characteristically puts a doubling dot in root 1. Which one, the Kal or the Nifal? The Nifal. Okay? The Nifal gets the doubling in root 1. So we will go with the Nifal imperfect or adjussive 3ms. So what does kun mean in the Nifal? In the Kal, it means to establish, right? So in the Nifal, we're going to make that passive to be established. Now, this, if it's 3ms, I'm looking for some masculine singular participant to be the subject, and it turns out that this verb is immediately followed by melech, which is masculine singular. So it's possible that the king is the subject. So it's either the king will be established, if it's imperfect, or if it's adjussive, how would we translate it? Yes. Let king be established. Okay? Now, notice melech does not have the article. So I just realized I said the king, but it's an arthrous. So it could be let a king be established. And what do I have next? Tzadik is an adjective following the noun. Do they agree in gender, number, and definiteness? Yes. So I know we're pulling the gray matter here. What type of adjective is this? Attributive, predicate, or substantival? Attributive. And that tells you what kind of king, right? So if we go with jussive, let a righteous king be established. Where? Al hakaseh, on the throne, and yashiv. So if this is a jussive, in my mind, it makes better sense to think of it as a jussive. But, I mean, theoretically, it could be imperfect just as well, okay? So here we have v'yashiv. What am I looking at here? Is this a hollow verb? Is it not? What do you think? How many root letters do I have? Okay, I have two, right? I've got the sheen and the bet. I've got this yod prefix and a Keurig yod in the middle. Okay? So this is looking like a hollow verb. What stem gets Keurig yods in the middle? Yeah, hifil. Hifil, okay? So this could be shuv. That's one of our new verbs. Shuv, to return, in the hifil with the yod prefix. That's 3ms. Okay, probably the same 3ms as what we had over here. All right. Now, here's the question. Is this an imperfect or a jussive? Does Hebrew distinguish between imperfects and jussives in the hollow verbs? Can we tell the difference? No? Usually we cannot, but let's take a look here. Go to our hollow verbs, and hifil is the second to the last one here. Look at your jussive, which is right here. Yakem, and look at your imperfect, which is Yakim. You see the difference between those two? He will kum in the hifil, and Yakem, let him kum. We have a sere, we have a Keurig yod. All right? So let's go back here. What do we have? Do we have a sere or a Keurig yod in our form? Yep, we got a Keurig yod. I have no idea why I went all the way to the beginning here. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, so yes, so we have a Keurig yod. So this is the the hifil imperfect, not the hifil jussive, right? So this could be let a righteous king be established upon the throne, and he will do something. What will he do? He will hifil shuv. Now in the cow, shuv means to do what? To return. So you're going one direction and you turn around and come back. This verb is used for repentance, by the way, in the Hebrew Bible. Okay? You've forsaken God. God's going to call you and Israel to turn back, to come back, to return to me. Now, this is an intransitive verb in the cow. There's no direct object. John's walking, John turns around. Okay, no direct object. Now, in the hifil, it becomes causative, to cause something to return, and it's going to take a direct object. So it would be to turn something back, to cause something to return. That is to say, I have a pen, and I want to make the pen go back to its owner. I return the pen to you or to him. Okay? So this verb could also be translated as to restore, right? Because when you cause someone's possessions to go back to them, you're restoring them. So what will he do? he will cause righteousness to return, which means he will bring righteousness back. He will restore righteousness. He will return righteousness. Okay? How do I know that righteousness is not the subject of Yashiv? Like, you might be tempted to say, and righteousness will return, right? I mean, that would make good contextual sense. What's that? Okay, yeah. Well, okay, so if it were the subject, it wouldn't be the direct object. That's right. And this verb would require a direct object because it's transitive in the hifil. But there's one other reason that you cannot take tzedakah to be the subject, and it has to do with gender. What gender is the verb? The verb is 3ms, so it's masculine. Tzedakah is what gender? Yeah. Tzedakah is feminine singular. So if it were the subject, then it wouldn't be yashiv, but tashiv. It would need the tav. It would need a third feminine singular prefix. You see? So, listen, there are built-in structures to the language that clue you in, if you understand the grammar, to how to read the sentence properly. Okay? If all you're going is based on what you think the basic meanings of these words are, you will try to make the words fit some way, but it may not be what the author's trying to say. Oh, there's this idea of returning, and oh, there's righteousness. I really like the idea of righteousness returning, so I'm going to translate this as, and righteousness will return. Well, great thought. It would make a wonderful postcard, but it's not what the text says. The text says, he, masculine, will cause to return righteousness, direct object then. Okay? You get it? We talk. Well, let me just make one more comment here. We talk and we harp about how meaning is something that is given to the text by the author, right? We're always wanting to go back to the author's intention. Well, if you really want to take author's intention seriously, you've got to take the grammar seriously. Or it's just a sham when you say you believe in authorial intention. Okay, go ahead.
This keys really nicely into my question. Is there something in the syntax or the context of, obviously this is just a sentence really, but is there something within this limited context that would tell us to interpret the nefal as a passive rather than a reflexive?
Over here at the beginning then, the Yacon? Yeah, well, no, I mean, there really isn't anything just in the structure here to tell you that. So it could be, and really, I mean, honestly, this could be the imperfect just as well. So a righteous king will be established. This could, like, a larger context might tell you, oh, this is a prophecy of something in the distant future, okay? If the context is saying that, or if the context makes that clear, then I wouldn't go with a jussive. I would go with an imperfect, because if this is a distant future thing, then nobody right now listening to this is being told to do anything, right? And a jussive is expressing your will that somebody do something. So that's one thing, right? I would need more context to make that decision. And the same with what you're asking. I would need more context to know whether to take this nifal as a truly passive, he will be or let him be established, or a jussive, right? Let a righteous king get established or establish himself. You know, both of those would make sense, but knowing a larger framework of a story would help me to know which of those is the better choice. Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Yeah. Right. Right. That is commonly the case. Yep. Which is why my initial instinct was to go with the Jussive translation. No. You really did hear me say that. Usually jussives, cohortatives, and imperatives, the volitional verbs, are in first position in the sentence. All right. Very good. Other questions? If you don't, let me go through a couple of other things with you here. Look at number 4. We have vaya, and here's the big question. Is that a kametz ketuf or a kametz? A short O or a long A? Is it vayakam or vayakom? That's right. This is vayakom. It's a kametz ketuf here. Okay? That's a kametz ketuf. The accent is on the ya, and so this is a kus syllable, which means it has to be a short vowel. So whatever this is, it's got to be the short version of it. So it can't be a long A. Got to be a short O. Vayakum. Now, that's from kum. So this is a vav pathak doubling dot, so we know that's a WCI. I have a yod prefix with no ending. We know that's 3MS, right? And with the kametz ketuf here, that's the U class vowel. This is a cal WCI. So, and he arose. La roots. What is la roots? What does that mean? Yeah, to run. To run. So I've got the la, which is the the preposition, followed by an infinitive, right? So this is another hollow verb. Remember, our hollow verbs use the cal infinitive construct for their lexical form. So here, this is easy because this is the form of the verb you learned as a vocabulary word in the lesson. Roots is the lexical form, and it's the cal infinitive construct. And here it's attached to a lamed, a wonder of wonders. That's the kind of verb we attach to lamed, right? Infinitive construct forms. So what is this lamed plus infinitive construct indicating in terms of the semantics? He arose, la roots. How is running related to arising here? Yeah, it's an order to, so we would call this purpose, right? Purpose. The infinitive gives you the purpose of the main verb. He arose. Why? To run. Where? Ha midbara. Ha midbara. What's midbar? Wilderness. What's ha midbar? That's right. And the word midbar does not normally have a kametz hey on it. It's just midbar. So if you know your lexical form and then you see a kametz hey that's unaccented, midbara, then what is that unaccented kametz hey? Yeah, it's giving direction, right? It's the directive or directional hey. He arose to run in a direction, and that direction was Hamidbar, to the wilderness. Okay? All right. You guys have any other ones you want to look at? All right. Let me have you look at number 8 then. We have Vayamet hanavi kol ha-kohanim haraim vayashev et ha'am. Look at Vayamet here. I have a WCI Vav. I have the Yod prefix of the 3MS. And what's left are how many consonantal roots? Just 2. So when you see the 2, write them down in the order that you see them and ask yourself, do I have a hollow verb with those 2 roots? And do I? Yeah, I do. It's mut, which, you know, that's a middle vav verb, which is U class. But what vowel class is the sigol here? That is an I class. So there's a reason for an I class vowel showing up if I normally would expect some sort of a vav, holem vav, or U class vowel. And it may be because it's a stem that takes an I class vowel here. All right. So what am I going to be looking for? Maybe hifil, right? So let's look at our weak verb chart and see if I can find a hifil WCI form that looks like this. So we'll go here. It's nice because mut is one of my forms here. If you look at the imperfect of mut in the cal, it's yamut, where you see the shurik, and its WCI is vayamot, and it's got the U class kametz ketuf. But what I have is a sere that has apparently become a segol. Okay, vayakem is what's my paradigm verb. Vayakem, accent on the ya, segol under the first root letter. And that certainly is matching what I've got here, right? Vayamet, just replacing the kof mem with mem tav for mut. Okay, so that is a hifil. Follows my hifil pattern. And that means not to die, which is what the cal means, but to kill. All right, so my subject is going to be masculine singular because this verb is 3MS. So do I have a masculine singular participant in the sentence? Well, right after the verb, I have hanavi. Is that masculine singular? Yeah, very likely the subject then. The prophet did this. The prophet killed. Kol ha-kohanim. What's that? All the priests. Yes. The prophet killed all the priests. And look at what comes after ha-kohanim. Ha-ra'im. Im. Ha. That looks like an attributive adjective, doesn't it? Noun followed by an adjective. They agree in gender, number, definiteness. So this tells you what kind of the priests. All the wicked priests. Well, what a nice prophet, right? Vayashiv, this is just like vayamet, the same vowel pointing, just 2 different root letters. Instead of mut, it's shuv. But it's the same parsing, hifil WCI 3MS. And he caused to return. What did he cause to return? Here's my direct object, et ha'am. And he caused the people to return. Meaning, he caused them to return to the Lord. He brought them back from their wicked ways. Okay? Exciting stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you'll read about in the Hebrew Bible. Now listen, children, to a story. The prophet killed the wicked priests. All right. So, there you go.
Oh, I had a question about 9, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So on your, so there's the nifal shavah in this one and the shaveh, shaveya. Is that how you say it? No, maybe not the last word.
So va eshavea.
Yeah.
Va eshavea.
He's talking about swearing an oath.
Mm-hmm.
And the verb, so he's talking about swearing an oath, and it should be in a, so it's a nifal form, correct?
Yes.
So I was just wondering, because a nifal is normally passive, but in your answer key, I translated it as a passive. It was kind of awkward, but you translated it as a passive here. So I was just wondering, what are the rules for not I know that nifals don't necessarily always have to be
Right.
passive.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
just kind of forgot what the rules
Yeah.
are for when they're not.
No, that's a good question. So I'm glad you raised it. So it has to do with this is a nifal. In fact, let's just real quickly make sure that we understand the parsing. Okay, so this is a WCI or a Vayiktal form, which is always what time frame? Past. Very good. The aleph prefix tells me it's which person gender number. That's excellent. Very good. And how did I know this was nifal?
Because of the pointing on the aleph.
Yeah. So we have an I-class vowel, which is characteristic of nifal and kal.
And then you have a A-class, right?
Yes.
Dogish.
That's right. The Dagesh forte and the A-class vowel here. Okay. So if I have I-A or E-A, then I'm looking at a nifal prefix form. Okay. So very good. So we've got that. Now, the roots are Shema. So we didn't number those, but that's it. So the question then becomes, what is the meaning of this verb root? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I wasn't looking at that very carefully. No. It's like, oh, wait a minute. We just did the alphabet, and here we are messing up our consonants here. So Shava, very good. And the question is, those root letters in that sequence in the nifal stem mean what? And as you know, the nifal stem can have the semantics of making a verb passive in meaning if there's a kal form that's active and transitive, okay? But there are some situations where the nifal stem is used for a verb where it doesn't occur in the kal, and it might then have merely an intransitive meaning, or maybe it'll have a reciprocal kind of nuance, or it may just have a special meaning in that particular stem. If you remember, the verb lacham, lamed chet mem, means in the nifal stem to fight, to do battle. And there's nothing passive about that verbal idea, is there? And in the same way, shava in the nifal just means to swear or to swear an oath, okay? And that's why even though you often associate nifal stem with passivity or reciprocity, it need not necessarily do that. And you won't know it unless you actually look it up in your vocab list or your lexicon and see what are the meanings this verb has in these stems.
Yeah, because I was just a little confused just in translating in general, because it was a little awkward.
Right, yeah. So you're going to translate this as, and I swore, not I was sworn. Okay, and I swore. Okay, good. Good question. Thank you. Others?
So how are we translating number 9, the whole sentence?
So how are we translating number 9? Do you want to give us a translation, and we'll tell you whether we agree or not?
Okay, so let's see.
Oh, let's read it out loud together. Ready? Harimothi et yadi lifnei Adonai va'eshavea. Okay. So what's that mean?
I raised my arm or hand before the Lord and swore an oath.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So I have raised my hand before the Lord, and I swore an oath, or I have sworn. Okay? Good. We didn't really talk about this verb here, but it is a hollow verb, isn't it? Okay, so what are my root letters? Resh and mem. And so when I want to think about a possible lexical form, if this is hollow, I got to stick either a shurik or a kirik yod in the middle, right? That's right. And how do you know it's shurik? Because there's not a reem. Because the lexical form is room, and there's no room for reem. Right. Okay, good. So we know that as a lexical item, we have a match here, but notice it has the kirik yod in the middle, even though it's a middle vav verb. So that kirik yod is there because of what? Because it's hifil, and the hey is here because it's hifil as well. Okay, so I've got two clues of its hifilness, its hifality. All right. Right. Okay, and then notice that I get a helping vowel here before the consonantal ending T, which is the 1CS perfect form. Okay, sometimes it's just a holum, sometimes it's spelled fully as a holum vav. Okay, so I could see both of those, but just keeping in mind here that I will frequently see helping vowels from my last consonant to my consonantal ending for the personal inflection. Okay. So it's not harimti, but I get an extra syllable with the vowel. Harimoti. Harimoti. Yes, the accent has moved to this new syllable, and that left what would have been a sere in the hifil perfect to reduce to a shiva. But this being a guttural, it can't take a regular vocal shiva. It has to take the compound shiva. All right, so harimothi, I have lifted up, raised something. Okay, other questions?
And number 1 is shaker deception.
Yes. Shaker, what is the lexical form for shaker? Sheker. Okay, so normally it's a double segel pattern here. Sheker, like melek. Why is it shaker? And why do we sometimes see Malik? This is, what's that accent called? Athnak. Think the Aflac commercial. Athnak. Okay, so this is called pausal lengthening. When you have strong disjunctive accents like Athnak and Siluk, you could get a short vowel lengthening here, and Segol is short, Kametz is long. Okay. When I taught you this noun in baby Hebrew, I gave you the little stupid memory device of playing checkers and trying to deceptively beat your opponent. All right? Yes, there's always strategies. Yeah, it's a shocker when I win at checkers. Anyhow, there you go. So, any other questions about number 1? We do have a hollow verb over here, don't we? Yeah. So what are my root letters? Yeah, it's Bet and Noon. Good old Bean, Mr. Bean. The Lord of the Bean. By the way, Jade, did you see any Mr. Bean in Cambridge when you were there? Because he's a Cambridge graduate, I understand. Yeah, Rowan Atkinson. V'yirdof. Okay. Well, let's first parse this one, and that'll help us with the next one. So, what is being in the Cal? To understand, perceive, discern. Okay, good. I've got this yod prefix. I have a kametz here. Is that kametz there because it's necessarily a hifil imperfect or jussive? No. In hollow verbs, and even in the Cal, I'm going to see a yod with a long A there, okay? Now, What vowel class is this? Sere, Yavein. That is I class. And the question is this I class because it's hifil, or is it I class because it's just is a verb that is middle yod? Okay, it's the second option. Yeah, exactly. So because being is the lexical form, any of my cal imperfect and jussives and imperatives are going to have I class vowels in them. So if this were a cal imperfect, what would this form look like? Yeah, I'd have the yod with the kametz, but it would be bet kirik yod nun. I'd have the full mater,
If it were a cal imperfect or a hifil?
a cal imperfect or a hifil imperfect. Both of those would be identical.
How they would look identical.
If you're starting with a middle yod verb, the cal and the hifil imperfects will look the same. If you're starting with a middle vav verb, the cal and the hifils will diverge, because in the cal it would be yakum with that shurik, but in the hifil it would be yakim. In other words, all middles go to kirik yod in the hifil, but in the cal they retain their middle mater vowels.
So it could be a hifil right here.
It could technically be a hifil. And what you would have to then figure out is there any grammatical reason to go with a hifil and causative notion here or not? Right? So let's, excuse me, let's think about the fact, though, that I don't have a kirik yod with my nutty prefix, which would have been the cal imperfect here, but I have a sere. So what is that telling me about this form? Yes, it's the cal jussive, not the cal imperfect. So how would I want to translate that if it's a cal? Let the righteous, hatzadik is going to be my subject, discern.
Let the righteous man or one.
Yep, let the righteous one discern falsehood or deception. In other words, let him understand what it is, what it looks like. V'yirdof. Okay, so what's that? Well, this is a strong verb, thankfully, isn't it? Strong verbs have how many consonants? 3. And I get to see them all, right? And there they are, radaf. With a kirik, which stems have a kirik in the imperfect and jussives and whatnot? There's only 2. The cal and the nifal. Okay, how are the cal and nifal different? One gets a doubling dot and a kametz under it, and one does not. Okay, which one has just the silent shava after the I class vowel?
But in this case, since this is a resh, it wouldn't take before the dog.
It wouldn't, but it would still take the kametz of the nifal, right?
If it would just not take that, or if it
Right.
would have some-
Yeah. So my dagesh forte would go away, and the kirik would lengthen to a sere to compensate for the loss of dagesh. So it would be yera something. Okay. Now the holam over here is also going against the nifal pointing as well. So everything about this looks non-nifalish, but everything about it looks kalish, doesn't it? Okay.
It's a Kalish verb.
It's a kalish verb. Now, it's very mean because it means to do what? To persecute, or on a positive connotation, to pursue. Okay? And that's the idea here, because emet is the direct object here, and the 3ms prefix yod is probably going back to the same subject as yavein. Let the righteous discern falsehood or deception and pursue truth. And here I have, is that a vayiktal vav? Is that a WCI vav? No, this is just a simple vav, right? With the prefix form. And so here's what we learned way back in baby Hebrew. When you have a volitional verb first, and then following it, another prefix verb with a simple vav, then this will often, at least in terms of the cash value, indicate the purpose of the preceding verb. Let him discern this so that he may pursue emet, truth. All right?
Is the English name Emmett from
That I don't know. I've seen Emmett, the name Emmett. It's got 2 M's in it, usually, and this only has 1, so it makes me wonder,
We're bad
but
at transliterating.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, I was bad at it, so I'm sure that
We can universalize that, right?
The name Emmett is German for powerful.
Ah, very good.
so not this.
Well, that's interesting, right? So we could, this is like totally stupid. So I'm not suggesting that we really think this, but we could make up a false narrative. So Germans were about power, and the Hebrews are about truth. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Good. See how fun Hebrew is? Of course, you shouldn't preach that. I mean, those are totally fallacious things to say. But okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Can you just go over real quick for my sake, how just one more time with how the pointing would be different if Weirdo was a WCI and not a.
Oh yeah. So if this were a WCI or a Vayiktol, the Vav always has an A-class vowel under it, right? So it would be Va, and then the Yod would have a Dagesh forte in it. So Va Yerdov. Okay. So we're missing the 2 diagnostic features.
WCP would have a Shabbat underneath.
Yeah, the WCP or the Vukatal form has a Shiva or a Shurik. It's the normal Vav, not the Va Vav, but the V or U, the way it's normally pointed. And then you wouldn't have a prefix form, it would have the perfect form. Without, obviously the perfect conjugation doesn't use prefixes. So it would be something like V'radaf, right? V'radaf. All right.
Number 2, why do we have that comments under the Vav?
Ah, that's a great question. Who knows why there is a kametz under this vav before anus? Yes. What should it have been? Should have been a pathak. And what should have been in the aleph? A doubling dot, because this is a Vayiktol or WCI form, right? But the guttural rejects it, and the preceding short pathak lengthens to a kametz. So anus. What does nous mean? To flee. To flee. Remember, someone wants to come after you with a noose, you flee or escape. That's what that means. So how would we translate va'anus? I fled. Now look at number 3. I just have nous. Nous. There's no prefixing here. Just nous. So what did we learn? What are the forms of a verb that have no prefixing? So imperatives in what stem? Cal, PL, and pual if we had pual imperatives. And if it's the perfect, what would be the ones that have no prefixes? The cal, PL, and pual as well. Okay, so perfect conjugation and imperatives, only those stems have no prefixing. All the other stems are going to have a prefix of some sort for those forms. Okay, now you learn that for the hollow verbs, in the perfect, the cal perfect anyway, do you ever see the middle mater letter? No. Remember, it's always gone, and all you will see are the A-class vowels, or if it's a stative verb, you'll see the I-class vowel or the U-class vowel, right? Mate, he died. Bosh, he was ashamed. Okay? The other verbs that are active verbs or dynamic verbs, their cal perfect is always going to have either a kametz or a pathak. So this will be nas. That's he fled. But this is nous. So if this can't be the cal, because the cal looks like that, it's got to be the imperative. I'm sorry, it's not the perfect. It's got to be the imperative. Okay. So this is uninflected on the backside. So which person gender number is that? 2ms. Excellent. So I'm telling a single masculine thing, person, thing. What am I saying? Flee, escape. Ki, because. And then Hagiborim, the warriors. Ba'im, the warriors coming. Where's my copula? Yeah, it's null. It's unstated. Okay, but we will supply it in English. Are coming. Now, you are translating this like it's a participle. Is that kosher? It is. It is. But what stem is this participle in? It's a cow participle. Don't cow participles have holoms? Not for hollows. In the hollow verbs, we do not have a holum. Okay? It's always a long A. The 2 root letters with a long A. All right? And then your adjective endings, which is masculine plural. Why is it masculine plural? That's right. Giborim is masculine plural. So ba'im, as a predicate use of the participle, has to match the gender number of Hagiborim. Does it have to match the definiteness if it's a predicate use? No. The attributive participles do that. Okay? And so notice Hagiborim is definite, but ba'im is not. Predicate participles are never articular if they're truly functioning as predicate participles. Okay, good. So the warriors are coming. Acharenu, after us. After acharenu is us. So there's a lot of nu in here, right? Nous and nu. Yeah. That's right, Giborim Ba'im. Anybody else have a question about anything on the homework here? Number 5, yes. Okay, let's read this together. Ready? Gur tagur ba'aretz hahi kol yamei hara'av. All right, so Teo, how did you struggle with the first 2 forms here? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do we have 2 forms of this verb here? Okay.
Emphasis on when it's used in conjunction with another verb form of the same
Right.
letters.
Very good. So this is an infinitive absolute of 1 root followed by a finite form of the same root, right? So they're both cal, imperfect, and infinitive absolute. So when you have the same roots, then what's the infinitive absolute doing? It's intensifying or strengthening the main verb in some way. So what is gur? That's our lexical form, gur. To dwell as a sojourner, to lodge. Okay? So if I add them together, it's you will lodge, or you will sojourn, surely, certainly, for real, show enough. Okay? Where? Yes. In the land, hahi. Is it this or that? That. It's the far demonstrative. Remember, this is ze, zot, and plural, ele. Okay? That is who and he, and Haim and Hain, or Hema and Hena. So this is the land, the that, which is that land. Kol yamei hara'av, all the days of the famine. Excellent. Notice I've got construct chain here, right? I have a 3-part chain, but this one is plural and masculine, so it goes Canadian, eh? Yes, Canadian ending. So all of the days of the famine. Very good. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Exactly. Because there are two different forms, so we need two different parsings for each one. Okay. Anybody else have a question?